Welcome everyone to HealthMark's conversation on the clinical couch. My name is Cheron Rojo, one of the clinical educators here at HealthMark. I am here in Viva Las Vegas, where it is a chilly 73 degrees, and I have my fan on, rubbing it in for the East Coast. This program is a casual conversation, as you can't tell already, on medical device reprocessing related questions and issues with our clinical affairs experts. There will be no contact hours awarded for this session, and Stefan Kovach will be your moderator for this conversation on the couch. Everyone has been muted during the session, but we may ask you during the session to type in your thoughts to questions, statements on the conversation, and answer a question for the actual couch prize. You will be provided a survey as soon as the event ends, and we would appreciate your feedback. And everyone will receive an email about 1 hour after the conversation with a link for the survey if you didn't have time to fill that out, and also a link for the recorded session. Under handouts located on your control panel, we have provided following handouts to download. We have the presenters' bios, we have featured product couch brochure, and then we have HealthMark social media and digest flyer. So now, before we get started, let's take a group question, and let's proceed with the next slide here. And I'm going to launch the question of who's attending today in this session. So it looks like the numbers are kind of winding down a little bit. Okay, so we're going to close the poll and we're going to launch the results for everyone. So it looks like we have 30% sterile processing professionals, 7% OR or surgical technologists, 3% IP professionals, 50% would be vendors or manufacturers or others, and then 10% is endoscopy professionals. All righty, so now we are going to turn this over to our own Stefan Kovacs.
Hey, first off, I want to thank everybody for taking time out of their day. We have friends from all over the world. It's 8 o'clock in Thailand. They're just waking up, and we thank them for it. It's 8 o'clock here in Detroit, here in Michigan. And we've got people from all across the spectrum. And we want to thank you very much. You know, we know you got a lot of choices out there with all these podcasts and casual things, and all of them are doing a good job. And everybody's just trying to keep everybody informed. And we were approached by some people and says, why don't you guys try something? And so we're trying to find different topics that we think if we were at a meeting and we were done at the meeting and we're just sitting on a couch somewhere, or maybe in a restaurant, or just sitting around and hearing speakers and talking about what's going on, we figured, why don't we try something? Well, last time we heard some people say they wanted to talk about endoscopy, and we know that's a hot topic. And we got two really good people, two people I really respect and I learn something from all the time, is Mary Ann and John. And I already got a couple questions. John, I was going to go to you first, but I'm going to go to Mary Ann first because it ties it both in. Somebody said, will the new updates talk about probes? So I think they want to know what are new updates or something. So I guess, Mary Ann, the first question is, can you give us a status of the update of ST79 and when it might be issued soon, and let you talk about that. And then maybe, John, I'll switch to you and see where that goes, okay?
Yeah, I can sure do that, Steve. Well, I think you mean ST91, but ST79 did just have some recent amendments that were issued. So we'll start with that and then move into ST91. And I had thought when we proposed this time that I would be here and be able to tell you ST91 2021 was approved, and we have all this new information, but unfortunately I'm not able to say that, just like the pandemic has slowed down healthcare and everything else in this world, so it has slowed down the standards process. So I am able to give you an update on where the document is at, but unfortunately it is not ready yet. But I'm hopeful that we'll see that sometime in the near future. So just as a recap, and I've said this on some other conversations or programs that we've had, but we did meet this past summer virtually as a working group. And just for those who don't know on here, we're talking about Working Group 84 from Amy, which writes the ST91 United States National Standard, and also working on a TIR, a Technical Information Report on probes and dilators, which John is going to speak to next. But we did meet this summer, and I am still the co-chair of that working group, and I've been doing that since about 2013. So until the document is finalized, I get to say that I'm co-chair, and then that'll finally be my time will be over as the co-chair, and I'll get to join the committee as a regular member. But so when we met over the summer, we were able to go through all of the comments that we received on that draft, and we'd been through multiple versions of it already.
Mary Ann, and every time, didn't you have like 400 or 500 comments that you had to go through, or something?
Yeah, the first time that we did a new draft of it, we had over 800 comments, and then 600 the next time, and then 400 the next time, and then this last time we had 200 and some comments. And part of the Amy process is that you take every comment that's received on the document and you address it. So we go through each of those hundreds of comments line by line, and we come to a consensus on what the document should say in the end. And I mean, as a group, we have not only manufacturers such as ourselves on there, but we have a lot of working group members that are from the actual healthcare facility, and we call those users. I know it's not a great name, but our users do play an integral role in really helping us figure out what we're putting in documents is that achievable on a routine basis. So we also have scope manufacturers, AER manufacturers. We have professional societies that sit on there like SGNA, APIC. FDA is even on there, Joint Commission. They're all a part of the working group and have a say in what gets into this final document. So I always think that's helpful for people to understand. We try to keep it very, very well balanced, fair and balanced, so it's not just a one-sided type of document. But the good news is this summer we were able to resolve those 200 and some comments, and the document went out for committee review and approval, and we did pass the approval majority that was needed. And it's not a standard majority, and everybody's probably used to that with all what happened in the Senate and everything, but you need a certain majority to get that document passed. So where we're at now is the update to ST91 is currently in editing, so like a technical editing at Amy. It happened that they had a new style guide, or a new formatting that came out when this went through to align more with ISO. So that means the definitions had to be reformatted to line up more with what we see in the international standards. So it's taken some time. And as I said, we're in a pandemic, so things have slowed down. So once that's through the style editing at Amy, it will go out to the committee again for a short review period. And that's really just to look at the editorial styling since it was changed.
So people can't make comments, only if it's grammatical, correct?
At that point, yes.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to make sure. Yep. Okay.
So technically what's in there should be finalized, but you can never count your chickens before it hatches. So we have to.
Can I stop you there for a second, Mary Ann? And I do want to get to John in a second, but this is what is difficult for you and John and other members. And you know what the changes are, but you really can't say what they are till it becomes official. So it's sort of right. You got to keep the key on the mouth locked up or whatever, right. Sort of, right? I mean,
it did go out for public review though at one point.
Oh, okay, John, thank you. Okay.
Yeah. It did go out as part of that final committee approval and vote. It went out for public comment. So like you said, Steve, you can't be sure of what the exact wording will be, but we know like basically what the changes or where the new highlights will be or where more emphasis will be placed.
Got it.
And that's really what I can talk about tonight, not the exact wording. So
Okay.
after that final 15-day review by the committee, it has to go to the Sterilization Standards Committee yet at AAMI, and then out for ANSI, the American National Standards Organization, for their approval. Once all that's done, we'll have an ST91 2021. So I'm hopeful that'll be soon, but I can't say exactly when.
Mm-hmm. John, before we get to the TIR, and Marianne and you are going to address a couple of things, that was very interesting. I forgot about that. For our listeners to understand that it goes out for public review. So those who were not really part of the AAMI group, you as a chair, Marianne, and John as a committee member, if people really had comments, you do look at them and take them seriously to see what it is. And that is very important. And that's what makes the AAMI document unique over some other guidelines that are put out, which we'll try to address if we have time. Correct?
Yes.
John and Marianne?
Yeah, and I think the other thing that Marianne was mentioning, some of the representatives on the group of the disciplines, I think it's significant that they were clinical researchers, Joint Commission, you know, as well as the professional societies and other standards organizations as part of this. So it's meant to have input from across the spectrum. So,
John, I'm going to put you on the spot here because this is sort of free flowing, and you guys put me in charge.
That's
you
what
were
the
a user.
Down the Couch is about, Steve.
God, oh, save me. So never mind.
I did want to ask Marianne if she could pass me the remote from the other end of the couch, but I realized it'd take 8 hours to get here. So
you guys are too much. You guys are.
What I wanted to ask
I'm
you,
getting
John,
text messages. You guys are hilarious, by the way.
Well, what I do want, I want to be serious. So is, John, you were a user and you came to the dark side to work for us. But when you were a user, how did you feel the process of this document was going and the input from the users? Do you think it carried some weight on how the document is, where it's going to be finalized?
So it was quite the eye-opening experience. My background is endoscopy, and so I was brought up, because I worked in a GI and pulmonary endoscopy unit, paying attention mostly to ASGE and SGNA when it came to guidelines. And it wasn't until I got into a system role where I interacted with other departments, including Central Sterile and the ORs, where I started to learn more about AAMI. So I was a member of AAMI Work Group 84 as I was still with the health system. And I remember my first impressions, I felt like I was in the minority as a user, as a clinical representative. But part of what we're up against is it's not because they don't open the door to clinical people being members. It's just I think it's harder for people, I'm generalizing, but it's harder for people from health systems to be freed up. I think that's been made that much easier as one of the side effects of COVID, that things are virtual, have been, that you don't have to leave your office or your home or whatever to attend a meeting now.
Interesting.
So we'll see what the future brings. But yeah, I was initially taken aback by the predominance of industry, but then all I had to do was stop for a minute and think, well, this is AAMI, so it represents the medical industry. And so that makes sense. But I was, as time went on, I felt better about it when I saw the increased representation from other disciplines, clinical as well as regulatory, and governmental as well.
Sorry we went down this other track, because I know the question from a couple of the people that I've got is, Steve, get to what are some of these things Marianne and John can talk about. So, okay, I'm going to be quiet. That's what people are here for. Marianne, if you could generally talk about some of the highlights in general, and then John, back to what the first person asked me about probes or something else, if you could then talk about why that's separate and what's that about. So Marianne, if you could take a couple minutes so I don't get the other people mad at me. Okay.
Yeah, I won't take too long, Steve. As I
Oh,
said,
okay.
I
Good.
can't tell exactly where things are going to end up, but some highlights that everybody would want to be aware of, starting at the beginning of the cycle, is our pre-cleaning. We've actually spent a lot of time hashing out that we've retermed that process. So in the new AAMI standard, you'll see that as point of use treatment, and that aligns with ST79. And really to get away from the thought that you're doing a full cleaning, and not to encourage brushing in the patient room, in the procedure room. So we'll see that re-terminology to point of use treatment, meaning what we've traditionally called pre-cleaning. And I know the thought is, well, the IFUs won't say that and other guidelines won't say that, but I think in time everything will catch up to that. We've also based some of our requirements and recommendations of the standards around the risk classification of endoscopes. So we're asking facilities to figure out what are high risk endoscopes and what are lower risk endoscopes. And we do give information on what are considered high risk, but then it's also up to the facility to determine if there's any additional scopes. Like, of course, you'd think of your duodenoscopes and bronchoscopes as high risk, but you might have a patient population within your facility that warrants even other scopes being high risk, and of course your reader scopes and things like that. So what we may require or recommend at the standard might be based on whether the scope that you're processing is a high risk or a lower risk scope. You'll see a lot more information around cleaning verification and really shoring up what the recommendations are there. Again, maybe based on high risk and lower risk scopes of what you might do different with those for cleaning verification. A lot more information on doing a visual inspection using lighted magnification and including a borescope inspection in that. A lot more information on drying, which seems to be a hot topic with endoscopy right now.
Marianne, wait, I can stop you for a minute. I got 3 questions on drying. So while you're there, can you share anything about drying cabinets or medical grade or instrument air? And I know we got to get to, I can't believe it. Honest to God, they came across. Can you talk about drying? So you said it, so I had to stop you. It's like we're right
Your
there. Can you
scopes
say
will
anything?
have to be dry prior to storage, and no, running them through the AER with an air purge cycle does not mean that they're dry. So you will have to make sure, whether it be through a drying cabinet or an air pump or however it is that you do it, that those scopes are completely dry before they go into storage. And John, correct me if I'm wrong, but also before they're used again. So if they're reused, then out immediately.
I think the best way to think about it is before they leave the processing area, they need to be dry. It doesn't matter if they're headed to a storage cabinet or they're going right to used in another procedure. They need to be dry.
That's a big change.
Is Dr. Alpha says bone dry? Is it have to be bone
That's
dry?
right.
So
That's
what
right.
everybody's pointing to as the reference as of this moment until further research is done is a minimum of 10 minutes of filtered forced air drying. And it's that filtered forced air drying, whether you use active drying before you put it into a cabinet or you have a drying cabinet that allows for that continuous drying. That's going to be a change, and that's going to be an expense, if you will, a transition for endoscopy units.
And extra time into the process, because
Yep.
many facilities will make sure their scopes are dry before they go into the cabinet, but not really worry about it if they're going back out to be reused right away. So, that could be a big process change for a lot of facilities.
And AAMI's not the only one speaking to this too. So this is not in isolation where AAMI's out on an island. Just last month, the multi-society guideline was updated again, and they actually reference point of use treatment as well. So it's going to be used more and more as time goes on. And they're also reinforcing active filtered forced air drying as well. I mean, clinical investigations and research have both shown the reality of residual moisture and the problems that residual moisture can cause.
Okay. Anything real else? It's about 8:20. I want to get to John on what this other
I
part
think
is.
another nugget that is going to be, depending on the facility, a potential big transition is reinforcing automated high-level disinfection is the best practice, no longer manual high-level disinfection. And that's
Okay.
also reinforced in the multi-society guidelines too.
Wow.
And AORN has had that for a couple years. They recommend against manual disinfection. So we've really upped our recommendations on that stance too.
That was
I think that's, Steve, is really the highlights, other than we've added a lot more citations in there to make sure that we have the data to support our new requirements or our new recommendations. And we've also paid close attention to what's a should and what's a shall and what's a must. So it will be clear if it's a shall, that is a strict requirement of the standard. So that does have to be done if you're following that standard, whereas a should is a strong recommendation. So we've really paid a lot of attention to that. And with that, I'll stop talking and
we made a distinct point of including MAUDE database references to show the real world examples.
John, in one sentence, what MAUDE is? Somebody, they might think it's Golden Girls or something.
Formal reporting system in this country through the FDA whenever a clinical site and or a manufacturer has issues with a device. So there's multiple listings related to flexible endoscopes and other devices, but we made a point of, if you will, beefing up the credibility of what we were basing our decisions on by including those references as well.
That's right. Good point.
John, if you could quickly talk about that. I'd like you to do two things in the next few minutes. Talk about what this other TIR is. And I had somebody ask me, what was this ASG or something you said? So if you could do a little probes, because they came out with something, talk about that. And then I got like about 10 questions I'm going to try to put together into one. You guys are lighting it up. And I to Jesse and everybody out there, I don't know if I can get all your questions, but I'm going to try. So I'll be quiet. Go ahead, John.
We can answer them offline too, Steve.
Just to reinforce, we'll answer you one-on-one as needed after this. In the course of doing the work of Work Group 84 with endoscopes, we realized that there's a lack of clarification and detail related to ultrasound probes as well. So we realized that we would start the process of a technical information report. Doesn't have the same weight as a standard. It could likely end up becoming a standard. We're in the midst right now of still working through the next draft of that. We started, Marianne, I think it was October 2019 formally. And it was interrupted because we were trying to get ST91 to the finish line. We picked up the pace again this last fall. So what this technical information report is going to speak to is best practice processing for ultrasound probes, and that includes internal ultrasound probes, external ultrasound probes, TEE probes. Early on, the decision was made to include dilators as well. And anybody that's worked in these areas knows that there have been some references, but it has been real piecemeal and minimal in terms of what's out there related to guidance. So that's where that's at. And then you asked about the multi-society guideline. The ASGE is the primary sponsor of it, but it actually, the current version represents 11 professional organizations. This is the fourth iteration of this. It started in 2003. ASGE, American Society for Gastrointestinal Endoscopy, professional organization for gastroenterologists. SG&A follows closely with them. With this new update, I think they've made it a lot easier and clear to read because they actually put things in table format as well as text so that you could do a quick reference to the table and get the content that you need. There's reference to their perspective on sterilization for flexible endoscopes. They speak to the current research that's out there doesn't necessarily support repeat high-level disinfection unless it's an outbreak situation.
Oh.
There's a lot more direct reinforcement and direction, for like scope transport, delayed processing, repair, maintenance.
So they didn't have a lot of this before, John? They've sort of beefed up these areas?
Yeah,
they didn't
and
have
they've
a lot?
expanded, as Amy did, they've expanded further based on the currently, what's developed. I mean, the research and the clinical investigations and just the attention being paid to flexible endoscopes and now ultrasound probes, it's happening very fast. So this is an update 5 years from the previous version. So it's to represent everything that's occurred in the meantime as far as best practice. And they also finish by reinforcing that post-COVID processing has not changed, but it's time to double down on quality control to make sure you do have best practices.
So
yeah,
again,
I thought that point was really well taken in their document. Pointing out that that there's really nothing additional that needs to be done, but you need to really make sure that you're doing it right to begin with, and adding in all the quality steps that we should have all been thinking about to begin with.
Quality. It's all about quality. It sounds like
Steve, for that one, you don't have to pay to get it or be a member. So if anybody's having trouble finding it, have them email us or put it in the chat and we'll send them a copy.
That's great. So it sounds like there might be a little more dovetailing or harmonizing or getting closer with the groups as they go. You mentioned earlier AORN was out there, and I think it was Sharon Van Winkle who originally wrote that or was the key author. And Marianne, over time, you've been pulling these things. And John, you worked, as you said, in endo, and you looked more at SG&A and ASGE, and now here's Amy coming strong, and they didn't have anything till many years ago. So that's all really good. We've got about 3 or 4 minutes left, and I've got wow.
You've got a prize.
I do. I got a prize in a minute, but I got to do one more question to Lori. I'm going to do my best to get you everything. Somebody wanted to know, can they dry with an air gun, a scope? They don't have a cabinet. Do you guys want to comment on that for a quick minute before I do the question? Because I want to get an answer and go from there. What do you think?
So it's historically not uncommon to see that occurring, especially in a CS area where they already have air and air guns. But the reality is, and they've actually done studies, as I recall, to show that it's not effective. You're maybe getting the beginning of the port and the beginning of the channel, but it's not an effective flow the entire length of the lumen. Marianne, would you agree?
Yeah, and we have data to support it takes at least 10 minutes and sometimes longer than that of continuous forced air to get the scopes dry. Who's going to stand there and hold an air gun for 10 minutes? If that's your process,
you run the risk of damaging the channel by using too high.
Right. And I think you're going to have compliance issues with your protocol, because I know I wouldn't be able to stand there and squeeze a gun for 10 minutes. And that's just one channel. So I don't think it's real.
Guys,
all right, Steve.
They said we got to be on time. So we've got 2 minutes. First of all, everybody out there, I got these questions. Cheron's back at the home front, and he's going to help me figure this out. And we'll get what wasn't asked, what I didn't ask answered, and those who want a copy, we'll figure it all out. Trust me, I might be old and slow, but we'll get you what you need. So here's the question. Everybody get ready. Get your Google out. Get ready to Google, because you got a chance to get one of Healthmark's UVC LED boxes. And the question is, what year?
Where do they type it, Steve? Where do they type it?
Oh, they type it in the response for the
in the question tab.
Question.
In the question tab.
Not chat.
Shoot.
Question box.
Question tab, not chat. Here we go. What year was Coca-Cola introduced? It's the real thing. Coke is, that's the way it should be.
We need to clarify, this doesn't really have to do with flexible endoscope, so.
No, but Coke could maybe eat out all the bile burden if you put it down the channel, right?
It's
Did you ever?
not in the
Oh my
IFU.
God.
Not in the
Nobody
IFU.
yet. No. Oh, we got a winner. We got a winner. Okay, the first winner here. 1886. Hold it. We're done, everybody. Hold off. Hold off. I got to get it. The first winner came in. 18. Miss Madalena Elamari. I think I said it. Malinda.
It's Melinda. Melinda.
Melinda. Oh my God. It's my glad. Melinda. Whoa. Melinda. We know who Melinda is.
We do.
1886. Way to go, Melinda. We're very happy. We've got about a minute left. We had, wow, over
We
50
just need to know how
people.
much Coke Melinda drinks.
Oh, I'm a Coke person. I am not a Pepsi person, man. No way. Well, thank you all. I'm going to hand it over. We thank you. We hope you found it interesting. Take a little bit out of your day. If it's the start of your day, maybe we put a smile on your face and you're getting ready to go to bed, put a smile on your face, or the end of the shift, put a smile on your face, whatever. We're here to help you. And thanks for letting the HealthMark team come and chit chat with you and welcome into your rooms or your houses or workplace. And Mr. Rojo, take it away, buddy.
All right, thank you, Stefan. Great job. So just want to let you know, we do have our March 24th session. And Melinda, who was our winner today for our question, Alamari and Nestor Hernandez will be on the couch and I will be moderating. But I don't know how I'm going to compare to Stefan, so I don't know. I might have to have him come back. But we're going to be looking at pre and current and post-COVID conversation in SPD, kind of where we've been, where we're going, how's it been now. So great conversation. We also want to have you guys visit our HealthMark events exhibit center. A lot of things going on. You can see great products. You can get education as well. So please visit our HealthMark event center. So again, a reminder, you'll get a survey right after you close this session, and you'll get one hour after with the link with the recorded session as well. And we'd like to thank our moderator, Stefan.
I have a question. Hold it. I have to clear up something.
What?
I already have people texting me. I went to the official Coca-Cola website for the date. Somebody's telling me it's the wrong day. No, the date is May 6, 1886. It was introduced. You have to listen to my question. So please, I researched this so it wouldn't be controversial.
We're
going with
it was
1886
about the whole brown, orange M&M or whatever. So I get it.
Mine was controversial too last time.
I know. I'm trying. Oh my goodness.
Well, again, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Stefan. Thank you, John and Marianne, for being scoped on the couch. Oh, my gosh. And thank you, attendees, for being on. Be safe.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Be safe and healthy.
Good night.
Bye.